Well, good morning. Good Saturday morning, people. Mr. Gerald Bell, Gill's Comfort Zone, Patty Mob. Thank you all for being here. And those up in the clouds, or those that'll be doing a replay of me later, I want to thank you. All right, let me get into it, y'all. As you can see in the title, before I leave here, let me tell my people, hello, Claude. Good afternoon. Let me let people know before I leave here, I'm not leaving YouTube, okay? It's just, I've been thinking about life and life in general. And when I say before I leave here, I want to leave here to where I give people something on YouTube to think about. Hello, babe. I'm not DJ Will today. I'm just my thoughts. And I don't know how I messed. Well, I know how I messed up. I came over probably on my music platform, which I should have switched over and changed on the when I went in my StreamYard. But I just want to say my views and opinions on how I feel about life right now has to do with me being older, a lot older than some people here on YouTube. I wish that back when I was growing up at the time that we had social media. What do I think about social media? I think social media is a way to socialize, but not terrorize people. I feel that social media is good for those that want to get out there and have their voices showed and have their opinions on things. What I don't agree about social media, though, is that we as human beings, as people, are distracting from the real issues of life, the struggles that, and I want to talk about it mostly, Black people have and the things that Black people have stood up for in this country, only to get on social media. And I know everybody has their opinions about things and what goes on in the world. And myself, being of a older generation, I consider, not as a historian, but as a blueprint of what a Black man or a Black woman might have gone through during that period of time in life. In those eras where before people were even born here on social media now, do not understand or doesn't understand the struggles that we still have as Black people in this world. Good morning. Good morning, people. I'm going to try to put you up there as I see you. Thank you all for coming in and listening for a few moments. I will be, God willing, and I know it's close, tomorrow, 76 years old. And it's ironic that on my birthday is coming up the independence of this country's 250th anniversary. Now, I wasn't back around that time, but I do know that independence means being free and separated from a tyranny or strife. Well, that's what they were fighting about. But I also know during that same time that we as Black people were still not free. Thank you. Thank you so very much. Black people were not free. So how or why should I be celebrating a 250th anniversary of a document that was written not for us, but for them? And when I mean them, I mean the people that came over from the country that also brought us over as slaves. Do you understand what I mean? Hello, Candy Cane, dear. Glad to see you. It's been such a struggle for us as Black people. When I mean Black people, I mean all those ancestors of ours that were put in chains and still in chains and bondage when the 1776 era rolled around. Thank you, dear. Thank you so very much. But yet, we're still here today, 2026, not free, not caring about anything when it comes to our independence. And when I mean our independence, I mean being able to have businesses, to have banks, to be wealthy. Yeah, we do have some that are wealthy. We do have some that run a bank, but do we own anything? We have people that own land, but by eminent domain, they could take it from us at any time. We have people out there that are struggling, mothers with children, fathers that are trying to make it to where they can support a family. But the way the economy is going, they need two jobs. Excuse me. We need two people working in the family household. So where does that leave our kids? To either be put in daycare, or if they have a strong family bond, they could have the family help take care of the babies. I've still seen that too. Good afternoon, Candy Cane. Thank you, dear. I've seen families do that too during the course of my life, struggling and trying to make it that way. Times are hard, Jill. They are very hard. But we're still, I want to say, as Black people, we're still in that mold of using social media to ridicule, to divide, to conquer our own. Instead of being together and trying to make ourselves as human beings a little bit better in this world. I'm not going to try to preach to you guys. I'm not going to try to say anything, but I'm just saying before I leave here, I want to be able to be proud of what I accomplished, what I have done as a Black man, and the things that I've done to make this world a better place. When I go back to the 60s, I think of the marches. I've seen our Black people being hosed, dogs sicked on them. Like I told people at 5 years old, I was at Emmett Till's funeral in 1955. I didn't understand why until later. And I know what my parents, my mom, was thinking about. If people knew of and were around at that time and seen the atrocities that were put upon our race of people as people, then you wouldn't be as so adept to sit up here and dox a person or try to make them feel crazy. Good afternoon, Hypnotic, wherever you are, dear. I skipped you. I didn't see you, but I see somebody saying hello to you and good evening. You know. Yes, dear. I went to the funeral. My mom, we lived in Chicago. My mom took us to the funeral, took me to the funeral because I was the eldest, 5 years old. And I didn't understand at the time. Like I said, there were a lot of people there. It was crowded, crying and weeping and moaning. And I was too short to actually look up into the casket. So my mom lifted me up. And to my surprise, I thought, really, now at my age, I didn't know what I was looking at. I thought it was just a figure, a wax figure, because that's what the young man looked like. He looked like wax. She didn't do the, as they say, reconstruction, facial reconstruction and all that funeral homes usually do or try to do. But he looked to me as a wax figure that, boy, it hurts to even think about it now. But let me tell you, people, when you have seen, and it's a young person, a young man, but let's not forget the age of Emmett Till when he met his demise by the hands of those that hated him because of a lie that somebody had told on him throughout the years. They told the story. They tried to cover it up, but through social media and the things that people looked into, we now know the true story. 1776, and I'll be 76. Hell, I was fighting for my freedom in 63, started at 63. A lot of things happened during that year. I witnessed the assassination of Martin Luther King. I witnessed the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. Also, Medgar Evers, which a lot of people, young people, don't even know or realize. Medgar Evers was one of the first true pioneers of racial equality and justice in this world. Hello, QI. Thank you, dear. Like I said, I'm trying not to look too much at my chat, but I appreciate all of y'all being here. Excuse me. And if I could get you up here, I will, and acknowledge you, My story, Patty Mom, is that I watched my father, who was a Jamaican and everybody knows, work hard. And as I got older, I knew what my father had to do at times, the people that he worked for. My father was a Mason. He was a 33rd, but he never tried to get his kids involved in the stuff that he done coming up. Also, he believed in a good education. He didn't want his kids to go through life not learning, not processing, and not appreciating the value of being able to read or write, to articulate certain things when it came to being a human being. See, you have a wonderful connection to history right there, QI. Learn about Medgar Evers, which I know you have learned, but learn the whole truth about Medgar. Why was he done like that? You see what I'm saying? I myself realized that anytime a Black man spoke out about freedom and the things that he wanted, he was eliminated. I've watched the videos, not videos, but the pictures that they have of us as young Black men in a tree hanging. You know, they may trigger some people, it may not trigger some people. But to me, it triggered me because I was afraid. And even living in Chicago, it wasn't that easy. Very much a civil rights activist. Yes, he was. Even living in Chicago growing up for 13 years of my life, I watched police brutality. I watched our own people being pulled over, slung up against a pole. But I also seen the atrocities that we did to one another. a neighbor shot, a neighbor taking a black child and misusing them, abusing them. Hell, even my own oldest brother, girlfriend threw a pot of grits on him. And that was long before Al Green got his throat on him. I've seen so many things in my lifetime that young people today, when it comes to history and the struggles that we have as Black people, they don't realize how fortunate they are, how blessed they are to even be here. Because, like, there's a lot of young Black kids that never made it through that struggle. A lot of young Black women, let's not forget the women that never made it through that struggle. Because just as sure as they did things to men, they done it to the women. Now, I'm not trying to divide the country or race or anything, because politics has done that too. They'll tell us one thing, they'll feed us a bunch of crock of bull, and then when we can't see it for ourselves, we're separated from each other. I watched an interesting video this morning, early this morning, because I do a lot of replays now, because my time is, to me, is more valuable with finding myself, finding the things that make me happy, and the things that make other people happy. If I offend any content creator for what I'm about to say, excuse me, but I did. I watched MU last night, this morning, rather, and she had an interesting live. It wasn't too much political or anything, but the interactions that went on between women and how they felt about different things. And my three main characters in that live were Shish Trish. Shout out to you, Shish Trish. And Jess Krista, which everybody knows is controversial. So I'm going to leave it at that. Because when women are up there, quote unquote, debating one another, there's often shots thrown and things that are said instead of staying on topic. But it's interesting how I looked at these three different women. Two of them are adamantly, as they say, Trump supporters, which I can't for the life of me see why, but in a way I do. She's Trish. She was up there throwing the shots, little smooth shots, but she made some good points. Trying to figure out, what do you see in the man, and not be so political about it. Well, I'm not gonna, like I said, I didn't come up here to bash anybody, but like you said, Kiwai, there is a conquering divide amongst us. And the conquering divide is, when you see things your way, you can't see them anybody else's way. So I had to learn the hard way about seeing things other people see. That's why I try to stay out of the political arena and the religious arena, and sometimes the economic arena. Because let's face it, everybody's not equal when it comes to economics. Everybody's not rich, as they say. Everybody's not as poor as they say either. But I look at things as the haves and the have-nots, which everybody knows was a show about those that had, those that didn't have, the struggles, and the way it was easier to get through life because of, number one, political connections, and unsavory connections. Okay. We had, I had growing up unsavory connections. And when I mean unsavory, I mean my dad worked for a mobster. He did. He actually did. Being a black Jamaican man growing up, he grew up in New York, went out to California, went into service, came out of service, settled in Chicago. And let's face it, back then, Chicago was a struggle city too. They had their gangsters, they had their mobsters. You know, Al Capone was famous. Uh, Lucky Luciano was up in New York, and it. In other words, black people had to connect with something that made them feel that they were safe and important, but also being able to connect with different aspects and walks of life, how people do. Now, I can't speak for my dad, but I do know he learned a valuable lesson that once he got his family, that he was going to protect them. And that's what family does. They protect one another. You know, I don't care if you got a utterer in your family. You wonder why he done it or she done it, but you're going to protect her to a certain degree. And that's another thing. We don't want the bad in the family to be ousted or talked about. So we don't talk about it. But yet we love that person to a certain degree, and then we let it go. But when it comes to loving one another or each other because we've done something bad in the public's eye, it's a whole different ball game. I don't care what a person has done because number one, they haven't done it to me. They didn't do things to me that would make me hate them for it. But again, when you do something to my family or a member of my family, then I was taught the old retribution, an eye for an eye. So I'm not going to incriminate myself with anything that I've done in my past years. And I'm not going to incriminate in anything that I've done in the present. But one thing I will say to men, you need to start protecting instead of objecting. To a man, I want to tell you, no matter how mad a woman might make you or how angry you might get at her, if you're with her, you will protect her. Happy Sunday, Benzone. And thank you again for your trivia. I missed it, but I loved it. And hey, I knew most of the answers, Benzone. But as I was saying, men learn to protect and cherish those that you say you love and you care about, because life is short. Even for me at my age, I've been blessed, but life is short because you're gone at the blink of an eye. Some of us will go to sleep tonight. A lot of us will go to sleep tonight. Those we may not know or even know about will be going on to glory. And if we find out about them, let's not ridicule them in life when they were alive, like we do in death, when they're gone and can't answer for themselves. Okay, great, Benzone. I'll be there if I'm woke, okay? And let me tell y'all another thing. As an older guy, I'm not, my sleep habits are different now. And also I have insomnia. I've also said that. There are times when I can be woke 3 or 4 days, and I don't sleep, and I can listen to things. But at times when I do go, after I get over it, I go to sleep. I might sleep a day and a half. So that's why I say I'm more into doing replays. And once in a while, when I'm woke, I catch a live, and I see people up here doing the same things that were done to us back in the early 60s, because the 50s, I remember being born. I remember being 5 years old going to Emmett Till's funeral. But I also remember the atrocities that Black people had to go through in order to even get a job. Riding on the back of a bus, not being able to drink out of the same water fountains, not even being able to go to a movie theater without having to go to the back and sitting up in the balcony to watch a movie. Those things, people, I witnessed, I've done. And as young people on here, and what I consider young, those that are 30, 40, 50 years younger than I am, even 16 years younger than I am, you didn't have to go through it. It's important that we listen to the grandparents that were around then. It's important that we look in our books and try to read up on things when you weren't around. How was life? Like now, everybody's complaining about the high price of this and the high price of that. The United States has gone through a depression before, and they survived it. But now everybody's saying, woe is me, woe is me. You get together as a person, as a human being, and you help one another, the struggles that they go through. I remember having block parties to help people pay their rent. I remember having block parties to help people pay for their lights and utilities. Did we talk about them? No. We gathered together. We had fun. We played music. And we did those things. Now, if that person was ungrateful later on, I guarantee you we didn't help them again. Let's face it, if you're ungrateful about me helping you out, then I won't do it anymore. I'll just leave it at that. There's another thing that I wanted to say with MU's Live, which like I said, I reviewed it. You have to remember that everybody is not fortunate. Everybody can't afford to live in Palm Springs. And trust me, and this is no dig at you and you, I have a nephew. I have a nephew that lives in Palm Springs. And let me tell you, the young man, he's well-to-do. But he worked for it. Like you said, he's been working all his life since he's been old enough to. But he also found the right connections to get to in order to get to where he's at. And when you have the right connections, the sky is the limit. And you don't go back and forget where you came from. Right now, he'll call his uncle. He'll talk to his uncle. And he asked me, do I need anything? I said, no. That's because I've lived my life. You continue to live yours, young man. And that's what I want to tell people all the way along. When you're older and you have lived your life, young people, I want you to value your life and treasure it, because the world is a different place now when I was growing up. Very, very different. We don't like helping people, but we claim we love supporting people. There's a difference between supporting and helping people. You support them by trying to get them to have the things that you didn't have. And I'm always going to support those that what I didn't have, you got now, learn to keep it. Learn to treasure those things. Even your parents, because once they're gone, you're going to hurt. You're going to hurt real bad. At times, you want to lash out at the world. And that's what brings me to Lady Nika. I understand her hurt because when you get as old as she does and life starts slipping away from those that you love, you get bitter. You get to the point to where you don't really care about anything. And if somebody makes you mad, oh, you're going to cuss them out. You're going to make them feel like the biggest, like they actually had something to do with it. So be careful of how you talk about someone's loved one when they're passed on. Be careful how you treat a woman that has a child with a disability because she's already going through a struggle. And this goes out to Uppity. Uppity, I understand you in a way, but I don't understand you. Because why? You do things on here that people look at as how are you protecting your child when you say the most asinine things about other people's children. You post them up on your IG and all that crap. I can't figure out in the life of me why as Black people we're hurting each other more and more instead of helping when we see that the other side is trying to tear us down and keep us divided. The course of life shows us that if I had a lot of money and was a rich Black man, I would have more white friends than I have Black friends. I've seen that done. But no, I'm not rich. I'm rich in life, but I still have friends, white and Black. But I have more Black friends than I do white friends, which is by no way of saying that I can't socialize. See, we all can socialize, but we have to keep our values intact. We have to remember where our foreparents came from. We have to learn the things in life that we were taught to be respectful, but also be proud. Be proud. Thank you for being up here, Jill. I appreciate that. Excuse me. I do have a slight cough, and I know what it's from. It's from my tonsillitis and shit, which which reminds me, getting old, as we get old, we have things happen to us that we didn't have when we were younger. I never had my tonsils taken out, so now I'm suffering the consequences. Do I blame my parents for not having it done? No. I don't blame anybody for not having it done. But those things in life we have to look at. Getting old is not a burden. It's just what I want to call aggravating situation of circumstance. Okay. And let me face it. The things that I used to do when I was younger, I realized I can't do it anymore. So why should I get angry with life? that's the real point of it right there. But I'm still here. My mind is intact. I'm still able to talk about the things that affected me when I was younger, and to also try to bring to the realization that we as Black people have to stop. And I don't mean just because I said stop. let's just say, let's back up off of one another for a little bit. Find out who our true enemies are. Find out about the way the world feels about you. You know, living in the United States, yeah, it's a great place to live. But would I want to live somewhere else? To be honest with you, yeah, I would. Just for a little while, not permanently, because I know the laws are set up different. The laws are really asinine compared to some of the laws we have here. The struggles that our LGBT community goes through, yeah, it's bad here, but in other countries, you couldn't even come out that way. So let's face it, people, the world is different. Instead of looking outside of the box, we have to look outside of the world and be tolerant of those that have different opinions about what they see, and just say, well, okay, I'll agree with it. And another thing, all this striking people's pages, trying to get them off of YouTube, trying to get them off of something that allows us to voice our opinions, be it right or wrong. We should stop that too. You're not, it's like you're trying to cover up for somebody, or try to cover up the wrong that goes on in this world. I'm not advocating for anybody but myself. And like I said, Sunday is my Independence Day. It's my 1776. I've been here for 76 years. I've seen a lot of good, and I've certainly seen a lot of evil. And I'm going to continue to fight for your right, as they say, the party. But the party doesn't have to turn into a tragedy every time. We don't need to hear about things that make us angry and sad to the point to where we want to dox a person, or just because they tell the truth about themselves, dig a little bit deeper, finding out what they might have left out in life. Hello, Tracy, my dear. Glad you're here. Thank you. Doxing a person, thinking about what they have done in life when they weren't around. You see what I'm saying? Because a lot of you guys weren't here when I was around. And that's another thing. You can't tell my story because you didn't know me then. You didn't live with me. You didn't raise me. The only thing that you could do is say, well, this old man is history for himself. And your history is for you. The things that you learned in school, I was taught the theories that went on in school. I was taught way before you guys were taught about it. Einstein's theory of evolution. I never believed in that because my dad always told me, you're not a monkey, you're not an ape. You know, I can remember him telling the stories of when black men went over to Germany to fight in a war. The Germans believed they had tails, and they would disgrace them after they captured them and pull their pants down and look at their behind to see if they had a tail. But see, we have a tendency to forget about how we were humiliated. The experiments that were done on us as black men, even in the military. Do you want to be proud and be used as a guinea pig? You're fighting for a country and still being used as a guinea pig? A lot of people don't think about that. That's why during the Vietnam era, people can talk about it, but those that didn't live through it or were in it, they can't say anything. You can talk about the Gulf War. You can talk about those things that came after Vietnam. But if you weren't there, you don't know the atrocities. You don't know that our own country sprayed a chemical that caused a lot of our servicemen to come up with cancer later on in life. There's a lot of things that the military done to their servicemen trying to get rid of the enemy. I can say so. I can talk about it because I have a brother that served over there too, matter of fact. And they both came back with debilitating things. Myself, I was very fortunate. I was very fortunate. I didn't have to go over there. I was I was a clerk. You know why? Because I was a black man, could use a typewriter. I could type up those orders and send our people over there. Or I could be with the general in his office and take down a note, a dictation, because I learned at an early age with an education and smart, you could do those things. Yeah, Patty, man, I understand. I understand, and prayers go out to your husband. I really understand that. My brother right now is going through it, and it gets worse. It progresses as the years goes on. But has this country tried to do anything for them? Mm-mm. They'll do so much, but as a black man, they'll only go so far. I'll put it that way. Good morning. Good morning, Sassy Francis. And afternoon. Yeah, we're all in different places, time zones, and that's another thing. I I'm in the central time zone. So I'm used to either getting up early, going to bed late, or getting up late, going to bed early. And I can hear the lives at certain times, and then I can't. So I do replays, like I said. Yeah, the water was contaminated too. My brother he was in the Navy, and they had to, try to purify that. When you're in the Navy on a submarine, a lot of people don't know the watering system has to try to be purified, or so the naval men can drink that water while they're underwater. But they didn't have the right filters or anything, and a lot of them drank the water aboard their own ships that was contaminated. So it's like I said, it's amazing how we as black people, we sacrifice ourselves for a country that put us in bondage and put us in slavery, but yet we're still begging, we're still being handed the crumbs, we're still being told that there aren't jobs for us, we're still being told that we're not educated enough or smart enough. Oh, bless his heart. He was an MP. I love that. I love that. MPs were important, very important. Military police, if people don't know, that's what an MP was. He was a police officer for the military. And for those, if you had seen the story, the movie, A Soldier Story, you go back and watch that movie and think about how our black men were treated, even in the military. That is so close as to the separation of color as you can get. Harold Rollins was in the movie, did a wonderful job. Even Patti LaBelle in her prime was in that movie. Yes, A Soldier Story. Yes, it is. One of my favorites too, Patty Mom. And like I say, young black people, go back and look at the movies long before you were even born, you know, that showed us in a light. You read about the airmen of Tuskegee, But do you know what they had to go through to be airmen, to be able to fly, quote unquote, those planes in the United States? We have a lot that we have contributed to this country. And we have a right to say that I'm still disappointed or I'm disappointed. Gas shouldn't be high as it is. Food should not be high as it is. But let's face it, it's those greedy people at the top that don't want to pay taxes, that don't want to help those to get out of that rut. They make programs to where they can go, just enough money to where they can go and get a little help. And when they're tired of giving them help, they cut off the funding. They do things that elderly people need. Even my Medicare has been cut. But number one, I'm a single guy and I'm a guy. I survived all these years without them, and I'm going to survive all these years that's left. I got to learn to budget. I got to learn. I don't have to learn because I was taught that at an early age. Don't be ashamed to know how to do things for yourself. Canning. As a grown man, I watched my mother can. I canned. They still got the apparatuses and the machines that you can with, that you can make your own, put up your own foods, add the preservatives that you want to add to that way you know what you're getting when you open that bottle. You see what I'm saying? When you open that canning bottle, you know what's in it. Grow your own food in your yard. If you're fortunate enough to own property, have property with a backyard in it, grow your own food, tomatoes, peas, greens, carrots, tomatoes. My daughter right now has her own garden and she posts it up. And I'm so proud of her because her grandma, which is my mom, taught her those things. And she also learned more about it. Because back then, when people were doing stuff, they didn't have the knowledge or, like I said, this internet to go and look up things. Learning to cook. A lot of people didn't know how to cook until they got the internet. Let's face it. It's good. Socializing is good. But socializing also means caring for one another, making sure that your neighbor isn't really struggling as a Black person. Now, there's some people that we know out here we can't help. Let's face it. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything in life no more because there's some people that just don't give a damn. And there's some things about mental health that we don't look at. That is a problem in this country, a big problem. And it goes way back, not now, but even back in the early 40s and 50s and back in the days when they experimented on people with mental health issues, electric shock, water, hot water and ice made them ice. To me, yeah, YouTube has gone darker, but also man's inhumanity back then was even darker, but yet we persevered. And we had groups like the NAACP, the Red Cross, people that came out to the forefront to say, hey, this is inhumane. Let's stop that. Even in our prisons. I remember me and Benzone talking about prisons and how they were then and how they are now. That's because a little humanity came out of the way people were being treated. And let's face it, women, you ladies have women prisons also, and you go through shit, hell, and high water. It's very understandable. Well, I'm not, they don't really shut down the mental hospitals altogether, but there's different ways they're being ran now, different ways. Like I said, that shock treatment, when you seen them putting that stick in a person's mouth and they take them little things and stick them inside their head, yeah, they used to do that, but they're not doing it now because why? We know that's an inhumane treatment of a person's mind. They were experimenting. They were experimenting with the things to try to make a person well. You know, they didn't know that it was a chemical imbalance. And let's face it, people, all things in a human being, when you're born, you are made up of chemicals and all this stuff, neutrons, protons, all that stuff. But when it gets out of whack, and it includes your brain, and too much of anything is not good for you, be it food, be it alcohol, you know, even let's face it, too much sex is not good for you, you know, but that'll be another subject, a topic we can talk about. But too much of anything, gluttony, it's a sin, and you're punished by it. You may not be punished now, but later as you get older, like myself, you get punished. But I'm still healthy, y'all. I still want to get out and take those walks. You know, like I said, I know I can't get out there and play around the tennis, but I enjoy watching other people doing it. And that's what makes me happy about myself because there are other people that can't do what I do. I've seen younger people in wheelchairs. I've seen younger people on crutches. I also seen younger people pass away from certain things. I was very fortunate to beat cancer, and I've had it, but I'm still a candidate for it to come back at any time. And I realize this. That's why I try to tell men, especially younger men, don't be afraid to get your prostates checked. Don't be afraid about having a doctor run his finger up your anus. Okay, I'm just being real about it. It doesn't make you less of a man, but yet you want to sit there and talk about a woman doing it to you in the act of having relationships. No, no, no. She's not a doctor. She can't. She doesn't know what to look for. The only thing she's looking for in you is the excitement. You get out there and check your health as a man, because there's a lot of things that can go wrong with men that even more so of women. And yes, men can get breast cancer. So that's nothing to be unhappy about. That's nothing to be ashamed of. Learn to eat the proper diets. As you get older, change your diet habits. Running to a restaurant, eating foods that are processed now, it's not healthy for us anymore. We know this. And like I said, learn to be self-sufficient because the world is not getting any better economic wise. We're depending on the elections and who's going to be elected and how are they going to make things great again or better again. No, they can't do that. The only way that it can be done is through the will of the people. We talk about protests and marching. Young people say it don't do any good. Let me tell you, it does good. Boycotting. If you're really honest about boycotting somewhere, boycott it. Don't be afraid to tell somebody, I don't shop there anymore, or I'm not buying this anymore. And you'll be surprised. like I said before I leave here, I want to be able to get people to thinking positive, not negative. And don't be afraid to say that you love a person. Don't be ashamed. Don't try to let somebody get on here and tell you about love or equate your love to being phony. Because you can love people, like I said, as Jesus loves us. And there's some that believe in Jesus, some that don't. But yet Jesus did teach about love. He also taught us that man's inhumanity towards man is not good at all. Was he tempted? Yes, he was tempted. But he did not follow the crowd. The crowd followed him. Just remember. Did they persecute him? Yes. Did they ostracize him? Yes. Did they try to make him feel low? Yes. But he stood in his principles. So before I get off of here, I want to let everybody know that I thank you for keeping me in the loop. I thank you for letting me voice my opinion, because like the year 1776, they gained their independence. But now I have my independence. And at 76, I'm going to voice, I'm going to try to change things that we do. So when I do leave here, I could feel proud of myself. I could feel that I gave my all. I tried to let people know that life isn't what you make of it. Life is life living. And no matter how poor or how rich you are, it's a struggle. Yes, the economy is bad. Yes. Yeah. Spirit Airline. And you see those big conglomerates that are trying to save money. Did you know Elon Musk was in court about AI? What the hell? I thought Elon Musk was about his cars. He's getting into that AI crap. But when I look at AI, it's just another form of control. Now there are commercials, and at the bottom, this commercial was AI generated. And just think about it, people. A few years from now, they're not going to use you in a commercial. They're going to use AI for a commercial. Those actors and actresses that have gotten out here and talked about the American Express card, talked about coffees, talked about clothes and fashions, they'll be using generated AIs. They won't have to pay them that money. You see what I'm saying? They don't want them to earn a living. Even our music being generated by AI, which I will never get into. Never get into that AI generated music stuff, because it's not real. It's artificial. Artificial. Okay? Just like the artificial sweeteners that they made back in the day, and then years later, they tell you it gave you cancer. Artificial is not natural. Artificial, even artificial birth, when you think about it, cloning, cloning, and all that. That's not natural. That's not something that God created. That's something that man is trying to create to make him a God. And I'm saying that man has always wanted to be a God, but we're not. We're human beings trying to survive in a world that was created by a real God. and he left us the blueprint to get through it. Now, did I follow the blueprint? No. Excuse me. Like I said, no, we never followed the blueprint. But yet, when we get into a situation, the first thing we say is, oh, God, help me. Did we think about that when we were doing it? Did we think about that when we overdrank the night before and we were hungover and our heads were in the toilet bowl? No, we didn't. So let's think about being more humane in life than tearing down one another and ostracizing one another, because the world is going to go on. Even after I'm not here, the world is going to go on. And I can see how it went on 30 years ago, 40 years ago, when people passed away. It went on. They're either going to talk about you good or they're going to talk about you bad. But either way it goes, it's been a joy for me. And I'm going to continue trying to do the best I can. If I disagree with somebody, if somebody disagrees with me, I'm not going to argue and call you this or call you that. I'm going to say you have a right to your opinion, but don't take my opinion and try to make it into something that you want the crowd to follow. Like I said, Jesus didn't follow the crowd. The crowd followed Jesus. With that being said, thank you all for coming up here today, listening, and I hope I'll be able to get with you. Well, no, I'm not on hope. I will be with you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow's my, like I said, 76th birthday. I'm going to be independent. I'm going to get up here and do things on my other platform and have fun. I'm going to reminisce. I'm going to talk about and play those things that made me happy. From jazz on down to the blues, on down to R&B, as they say. Because I lived in a time and era where people use music to show how they really feel about love and how they really feel about life in general. Breakups, makeups, cheating. We've all had that in some shape, form, or fashion. And it doesn't have to be with a spouse or somebody that we were going with, because we have cheated ourselves out of life. Myself, I cheated myself out of life. But I'm not going to let it dissuade me from loving the things that I used to love and the things that I used to do. And music was a part of it. So with that being said, I want to say thank all of you for being here. Thank all of you for staying up and listening. And for those that don't understand me, saying I'm too goddamn old to be on here, well, just think about it. There are other people that have been on here and are not here anymore. And to them, I say, thank you. Thank you while you were here, because you left an impression in my heart. You left me with memories. You left me with the thought that I could think about you even now and say, I love you as Jesus loves us. So with that being said, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to play a little music that I think us old folks like. You know, when I think about the lowrider, I think about the cars that scraped along the ground and spark. That's a lowrider to me. Black people doing the things that when they had the fun and the opportunity to do it. And they couldn't take that away from us. Just remember, when nobody can take anything away from you, when you're enjoying your life, baby, you got it made. Thank you. Thank you so very much.